Okay, you all good? Let's do it. Hello and welcome to the B2C Lead Generation Podcast. Welcome back to the B2C Lead Gen Podcast. My name is Daniel Hopewell here with Simon Delaney. This is episode 46, 5 ways to boost your thank you pages. This is going to be short and sweet today. We're going to go granular. Simon, thank you pages, massively underutilized, right? We see it all the time. People can treat them almost like a bit of a throwaway. They think they've already got the lead or the action or whatever it is, so they're not that bothered by them. But today we're going to explore quickly how to get more from your thank you pages, and you've got 5 ideas people can use, right?
Yeah, so I think right from the top, it's worth pointing out that if you're measuring the success of your lead generation via revenue or sales, you'll carry out anything to increase that, right? To increase engagement, to increase conversion rates, to increase the likelihood that leads are going to buy into your brand or product or service more. And so using the thank you page effectively enables you to do that. If all you're doing is measuring leads and the amount of leads that you get and seeing a lead as success, why would you bother messing about with a thank you page? You just put thanks for your, thank you, or thanks for your input, or whatever else it is that you put. So this is to do with measuring the right thing, which is always success, is the way we think, or I think, and you think the same way. So if we kick off with what we could do to increase the viability of your thank you page, that it actually helps the user, gives them more information, and increases the likelihood of success. So the first thing is always tell your prospect exactly what is going to happen next. So don't leave any surprises. Don't let them guess. Don't think that they're going to get an email when they're going to get a phone call, or vice versa. And so in some ways it's best to really spell that out. So it's like, number one, in the next 15 minutes, you will receive a phone call. 2, we will ask you about X, whatever the product is.
Yeah.
And 3, if we can help save you money, we will then do X, Y, and Z, whatever is going to happen. And that just means that the user now knows, what to expect. You can even put the telephone number that's going to call them.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You can put if you could have the person that's going to call them, even better. Any information that arms that person who is a lead with all the necessary information that they are going to need to make sure they fully understand what the next steps are, the better. The greater your likelihood of increasing conversions across the board is going to be. I think that the other thing, so point number 2 would be, so a leads come in, let's say you've got a form, so a multi-stage form, 5 steps maybe, and you've asked a bunch of questions. If it's broadband, it's like, what speed are you? Who's your current provider? What speed do you want? All the personal details. They hit submit, that lead is generated. Why not then give them the opportunity to book an appointment? So they've already submitted a lead, right? So normally what would happen if it was going into a call center, for example, which a lot of these leads do because they just get an immediate call. I mean, a lot of companies don't do this, but let's assume they're quite modern. They have an API going straight into a dialer. It goes straight in. 10 seconds later, an agent is calling and they're doing whatever. So this is the speed to lead, and we all know how important that is. So you can still do that. But what about putting it could even be a 30-second delay on the lead, maybe even 1 minute, and having an appointment form where the user can then choose a time, date they're actually going to get a call on. And this just increases the likelihood that they potentially could convert, because they've taken the sort of time to consider when they want to have a 30-minute conversation, which, by the way, sorry, that should be on point 1. How long we think this could potentially take as well is always quite a good barometer of their purchasing intent behind that product. So the great thing about appointment booking is you already have the lead anyway, right? So you can still utilize it in the same way that you would do with your normal lead generation. But if you were doing appointment booking, it's just this extra sort of level of potential intent that you can rely on, and it means that you can then just call the person exactly when they want it.
I think I think that one, I'm trying to think of this from the perspective of the consumer, is as in the point is really important. This is a company, I won't name them, but they call me all the time, and they always call me during working hours. And I kind of answer it because I don't know it is, and it's never from like a particular number. They always change the number, which is really annoying as well because I'm just like, oh, it could be important. And I'll say to them, oh, can you ring me back at a different time? And they're like, oh, no, you can't book like a specific time. They just we'll just try you again. And I kind of say to them like, yeah, but we're just going to have the same problem over and over again. If you call me whilst I'm working, I'm not going to answer it or not be able to talk to you properly. So I think being able to adapt to what the consumer or the lead wants is massively important. And yeah, like I say, giving them an opportunity to actually book it and what's good for them, I think is a really good one.
A point beyond that as well is to actually ask them how they want to be contacted potentially as well. I mean, this can be really bad for some brands. So let's say you're buying traffic on Facebook and you've just spent the equivalent, I don't know, £15 a lead to get some leads in. And then you go, how do you want to be contacted? And they say email, SMS, telephone, postal or something. And they go email. You probably know like, oh no, only 25-30% of the people we email are going to open the email versus if we call them, we know that 60% are going to potentially answer the phone. So there's always this like contact percentage engagement versus like how the person wants to be contacted. But depending on it's a strange one because then you also use it as like, have they opted into a phone call if they press email? So you'd have to be really clear about like whether it's an opt-in or whether it's like a preference, and whether they've opted into everything. But that can be sort of done at a secondary stage as well. That could be done like, I don't know, via an email post you delivering it as a lead, or if they miss the appointment, it's becomes like, well, what's the best way for us to contact you?
I think the important thing there is segmenting, realizing not everyone wants the same thing. Whether it's email, phone, whether they want appointments, whatever it is, you need to understand that different people want different things. You need to give them different options, right?
Well, yeah, and the world's changing, right? Like 10 years ago, a lot more people wanted a phone call and expected to do things. If you look at the people that are growing up now, potentially moving to like buying houses, late 20s, early 30s and things, they're used to sort of engaging with people on a completely different level, more via like WhatsApp, text, whatever. So it's always good to find that out. I think another good way to use a landing page, thank you page, is something like video as well. So you already want the person to be fully aware of what the service or product is, and so be fully invested in what they're actually entering into when they become a lead. But I think using video on a really sort of short video can just like further qualify them in terms of their interest in things. So it can just be to like engage the user a little bit further at that point, so they actually become either like more excited about the product or service, or it like solidifies exactly what they had in their mind. And so I've never seen anyone do it. I've seen a couple of companies do it, and I've always thought it works well. I mean, it's just something you don't see many people do.
I think I've seen that. I don't know what number, 90% of thank you pages I've ever seen, they should just say thank you and that's it. Like, I don't think I've ever seen many videos, but I think that's a good time to do it, right? Like, it's like how we always talk about the speed in which you contact people. Like, if you contact someone within a minute, they're more engaged than they will be if you contact them in an hour. And I guess it's the same in any sense. And, when someone has clicked their lead through, a thank you page is probably the time the most engaged, right?
Well, yeah, and that's a nice segue into the next point I was going to raise, which is it's actually a great moment to go for referrals from that individual, right? Because I don't know what the conversion rates of different products are, but let's say on that it's like 15%. So for 85% of the users that have just filled the landing page in and landed on a thank you page is the most engaged they will ever be with your product or service. And so when you think of it like that, what do you want them to do? You probably want to ask them for a referral. So why not have something that they could potentially share quite easily? You might see some like logos for like Twitter, Facebook and stuff, but nobody particularly makes any deal about it, and they also don't give anything back to the user. But if they could generate you additional free leads, so it could be like a voucher, it could be some discount off the products or services, something in terms of like offering a referral scheme for 85% of the people who will be the most engaged they're ever going to be at that point. It just seems like a complete and a no-brainer, right? Like, why would you not do it when your audience is never going to be that high again?
Yeah, for sure. That's point 4. That was. I'm trying to keep track on behalf of people. So that's 4 points. We'll go through them.
Okay.
Summarize them. Point 5.
Yeah, because we sort of moved into like collecting additional channel preferences, which was actually just under the same point, but it could have been another one. So point 5.
I'll go through and spell them out afterwards.
Yeah. So point 5 that you don't see very much is cross-selling or upselling other products. Typically, that would be like complementary to what the person is doing, right? So quite easy if you're a lead generator and you have thank you pages, because you might work in like multiple verticals, right? So I don't know, if you're collecting test drive leads, it's quite easy to then, when they get to the end, say, are you interested in car insurance right at the end, and then they can potentially say yes or no at that point. If you're a brand and you have a landing page with a thank you page, whatever, or it could just be a thank you page on your website. So let's say, I don't know, most brands or large brands have multiple products that they could potentially offer people. So, looking at something like energy, they always do something like broadband or electric vehicles or boilers or warranty schemes or whatever it is. And they'll combine those when they try to sell to the individual over the phone. So if you like submit a, I don't know, boiler warranty scheme to British Gas, they're going to try and sell you energy at the same time, right? But the thank you page is the perfect place to also do that, because you can just qualify that interest immediately at that point. And you very rarely see people do this. It's taken as like the thing you usually see is something that people call a CPA wall. So what will happen is people submit and they'll just put like a bunch of offers that they've got affiliate deals on, where they get a percentage of the sales, or they get like a certain amount of cash if the person converts. But they don't necessarily try and make it complimentary. They're just looking at things that might make them the most amount of money. And these people are engaged, right? And it's really difficult when you think like a marketer and you're looking at things in a certain way. When you're like not a normal person, when you're like a member of the public that isn't a marketer and isn't
like we're abnormal,
and isn't working with landing pages or thank you pages all the time, you actually like read shit. That sounds really weird, that, right? But like we get to the point where it's all about like conversion rate optimization, so everything's just like thought about to the nth degree. You almost stop seeing it in the way that people do. When they hit a thank you page, they're still like engaged, right? For them, that's not the end of the journey. They're not thinking like, yeah, I'm a lead now, I've done it, this is success. They're just going to read whatever you put there. So if it says thanks for your input, you're just like, oh, all right, is that it?
That's such an interesting way of thinking about it, actually, because a good one, I saw my parents the weekend and like talking about like people, not marketers and just normal people. And my mum, for example,
we've got to get out of this habit of calling them normal people, right?
Like... yeah, for the purpose of having a savvy stuff. Yeah. But like the example I was going to give you is just like, if she gets like an invite on Facebook to some event that's happening in Albania for some DJ thing, that she's somehow, and she'll be like, I don't know, I've been invited to this thing, and she'll take it as like very gospel. She'll think it's almost rude to not reply to people, or like it was my dad's birthday, which is why this came up, and he was like getting messages, and he was like, I've got to reply to it, and he, because he's like of that generation, he would treat it almost like actual message. But like exactly as you're saying, that's quite interesting way of thinking it. Like we do just like think so hard about condensing things down, and like you're saying, people will just read that. And I think that what I'm bringing back around to is sort of saying, your thank you page is there, whatever, it's on there. You've spent the money to get them to commit, to submit their leads or whatever it is. There's no extra cost to doing any of these 5 things, these opportunities. Like whether you just put thank you, whether you do all these suggestions, there's literally no extra cost to it, is it? Like people are already there, they've submitted the lead.
I mean, you might have to, if you're doing like it could be like time spent, or, if you're going to create, I don't know, like a epic video that's going to win some sort of award, there could be. But yeah, I mean, the point, I still think it comes back to this point of, what are you going after? A lead? Because if you're going to go after a lead, the journey ends at that point, right? Like that's it. You may as well just have thank you, and they just go, oh, thank you. But if you really want to start thinking about like conversions, sales, everything, it's like a blank canvas, because no one else is doing this, right? So now is your opportunity to sort of be creative. What is going to engage users? I mean, we talk about it quite a lot, but this is where you sort of split test things. And whether, you don't have to necessarily split test like 2 videos, you might split test having a referral scheme, having a video, cross-selling a product, whatever it's going to be. And then you can just see what people are engaging with. Or you could run different offers at different times. But I think it's just so massively underutilized. And you think of the amount of people that hit this page, so you've already lost like a load of traffic, right? So as we know, wherever you're going to drive traffic, whether it's PPC, native, Facebook, affiliates, whatever, you're not converting 90% of the traffic to a lead point anyway. So you've already got rid of loads of it. And then when the lead comes in, you've got another 90% that you're not going to convert either. And then you've got this page that just is sitting there like it's a bit like an appendix. It's just, you may as well, if you're just going to put thank you may as well not have it.
It's more than simply just to trigger a workflow,
Yeah, exactly. I do think it's this thing of like thinking like a marketer and changing your mindset about it. As in, these people are actually engaged in this. To them, it means something. Whereas to me, I just want to get a lead.
Well, like you say, it comes back to, I mean, we did a podcast before on it about impact metrics versus vanity metrics. It's like what you're chasing is the end goal. But I think as well, that a nice way of thinking about it is a thank you page is the end of the journey if you're only measuring leads, but it's the beginning of the journey if you're measuring sales. And
it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, as you were talking about, that's kind of as I was trying to explain it in that way. So yeah, as promised, I'm going to very quickly summarize, because I think we kind of in one of the situation went from one to point B back to all over the shop. So tell your prospect exactly what's going to happen next. Give them an option to book an appointment. Use videos to further engage, qualify. Use the opportunity for referrals. And 5th point, upsell, cross-sell other products. 5 ways.
And there could be things that we've missed in there, though, right? This is what I mean about being creative. Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's the whole point, isn't it? It's like your thank you page is there. Use it. It's space. You spend money getting people to that page. Let's maybe start trying to find ways to use that page a little bit more and utilize it. There are 5 ideas. That was episode 46, 5 ways to boost your thank you pages.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to the B2C Lead Generation Podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe to hear more from those at the very cutting edge of the lead gen world.